Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Olivia and I make videos about anthropology every single Monday. And today we're going to be talking about economic anthropology. Not only what it is, but also how it differs from the more broad field of economics. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So first things first, if you look up economic anthropology online, this is the definition that you're going to find. Economic anthropology is a field that attempts to explain human economic behavior in its widest historic, geographic, and cultural scope. Now, this definition is really broad and leaves out a lot. So there's a few things that I want to draw your attention to. The first thing being that we're trying to understand human economic behavior, right? We're saying that behavior can in fact be economic. But we're looking to explain this through a series of variables. These variables include culture, history, and geography, which again, the more broad field of economics doesn't necessarily look at culture, history, and geography, among other variables, as closely as the field of anthropology does. But we're still at the beginning, so if you're confused, don't worry, because we're going to break this down a little bit more. So let's start out with the basics. Economic anthropology basically looks to understand how cultures around the world provide the basic needs for themselves. Now, what's interesting about this is the basic needs are actually quite different depending on who you are and your culture. Oh, Olivia, what about food, water, shelter? Right, of course, these things are essential for everyone. But if you go one step further, just barely, and take into account something like geography, if you are a culture based in the desert, your needs are actually going to be quite different than another culture who's based in the tropics. And on top of that, in going beyond these just basic physiological, biological necessities, there's things culturally speaking that are also considered necessary. And it's really important not to forget that. So there's many things that people need to survive on the day-to-day, and this depends on where you are. And so economic anthropologists are looking to understand every single level of exchange and how these, again, essentials to everyday life might be different around the world. Now we need to backtrack a little bit, because without talking about economics, I don't think economic anthropology is going to make a ton of sense. So first things first, the definition of an economy. So an economy, when you look it up online, is the wealth and resources of a country or region, especially in terms of the production and consumption of goods and services, right? So again, we're looking at the wealth of a country. We're looking at how much money a country has, how many resources a person has or a country has. And it's not actually paying attention to some other variables that actually impact economies a lot. I think it's fair to say that economics has been born out of Western tradition and basically looks to understand items through their monetary value and how this monetary value actually impacts an entire country, right? GDP, all that good stuff. Maybe you've taken economics before, maybe you haven't. I took it in high school. It's been a little while, but this is important for everybody to know. But anthropology is taking a look at this economic concept more broadly and saying, well, what if some cultures don't actually assign monetary value to certain kinds of exchanges, right? Which, get ready, I have a good example on that coming. But there's things that are really important culturally that are considered economic actions or behavior, or things can be socially economic that don't get represented in, again, monetary value. So what am I saying? The difference here is that anthropologists are saying that social actions can be economic, and not all exchanges have to have a monetary value. Understanding how exchanges are impacted by geography, history, and culture. Really quickly, if you have not liked or subscribed to this channel, definitely do that, because we talk about anthropology every single Monday. So if you want more of that, definitely do that. But now back to that example that I just told you that I was going to tell you about. Okay, so maybe you're listening to this and you're like, Olivia, how is it possible that an economy can exist without the concept of money, right? I know it doesn't sound the most intuitive, but we're gonna go back in time a little bit to two very famous anthropologists who studied a different kind of economy in the Trobriand Islands. These anthropologists, I almost said economists, but no, they were anthropologists, go by the names of Molonowski and Mauss. And they studied the native people living in the Trobriand Islands, and they observed something very interesting. People would take very treacherous, very dangerous journeys from island to island to exchange shell necklaces. this is a form of exchange and it's not monetary, and shell necklaces, and I think armbands as well, don't actually help you with basic biological, physiological survival. But it's still a very economic exchange. And so basically Molonowski and Mauss argued that this is an example of a gift exchange, where what we observed was you had different native cultures exchanging items, giving gifts with the expectation that the people that they gave these gifts to would then give them gifts back. And it created this ring, this geographic ring on these islands that they called the Kula Ring. And this is a very famous gift economy, and it started with the observation by these two anthropologists. And it's important to remember that these items convey meaning to these people. If you can make this treacherous, dangerous journey to give me something that means something to you, what does that say about our relationship? What does that say about the prosperity of our two communities? Right? It opens up a lot of questions and forces you to acknowledge that there's more to an exchange than monetary value, right? Your geography has a lot to do with your economic situation, right? Maintaining good relationships with the people around you or the states, countries around you helps, the economy, do well. So again, this process of exchange became known as the Kula Ring, in which native people in the Trobriand island were exchanging these necklaces in the form of a gift economy, which is quite different from the economy that I'm used to here in the US. Finally, because economic anthropology is a little bit hard to break down and explain because there is so much to it, I want to end with a quote that I think really gets at this definition better than maybe I just explained the entire video. And that is, thus, while economic anthropologists study economic processes, their approach is different from that of economists. Economists usually restrict themselves to monetary transactions and try to develop formal, abstract models of economic systems. Economic anthropologists, on the other hand, usually are concerned with all forms of production, circulation, consumption, monetary or not. Further, they are concerned less with developing formal models and more with trying to describe and understand economic actions in their social and cultural context. So again, closing this all out by saying that we're trying to understand the way that people behave and their economic choices and behaviors through things like culture, geography, and history. It's all connected. Let me know if you guys have any questions about economic anthropology. My sources are all going to be linked down below. Let me know what you want to see next week, and I hope you guys are having a great Monday. Bye!